I'd like to turn the lights down and then we'll get going. I'll give my hello and welcome. Oh, Roger, if you want to put the first picture up.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Good evening and welcome to the Editing Forum. I call it a forum because although I shall probably do most of the talking, you are invited to take part. In fact, at one point you're required to take part. And at other points, if you want to chip in, ask a question or make some point, then we'll take it as it comes. Now, editing, a very important subject. It's the thing that actually probably takes longest. For every minute of finished film, there's probably an hour of editing, believe it or not. And for me, it's the most enjoyable part. So it's rather a shame that we don't talk about it very often. And the reason we don't is because it's thought to be too difficult, because everybody's got their own software, and how the heck do you make a presentation that suits everybody with all the different software? So I have a way out of that. I shall not be mentioning any software. I shall not be talking about where to click your mouse or how to do something. I shall be talking about what it is that you're trying to do. And of course the point then is if you know what you're trying to do and you have an objective, you can go away and figure out how to do it with your own bit of software. So I shall be looking first at the overall thing of making a film. What is it we're trying to do? Then I will go for a few minutes back to the world of Cine, because there's still one or two lessons that we can pick up from those early days. Then editing video, and by this I don't mean video compared with Cine, I mean the video tracks compared with what I should do with next, which is the audio tracks. And then finally we shall have a look at a bit of creativity, because I think that editing is more than just a mechanical thing you do. I think you can actually create something with it. Okay, Roger, let's move on and look at making a film. So I started with some principles. Now, principles are my guidelines. They're probably not the only ones. You'll find other people think of different ones. You could think of them to some extent as a rule, but rules are there to be broken. So if you want to break the rules, fine. But you should know what the rules are, and you should have a reason for breaking them. The rules, by and large, are the sorts of things which will get you most of the way there without any problem. So in principle, a film has to tell a story, and I use the word story in the broadest sense. You could be just trying to put across a feeling about something. It could be some nice pictures of something with some music, and that I would call the story. What it cannot be is an odd collection of pictures that don't add up to anything. And your story should have a beginning, middle and end. At the beginning, not just the title, the opening scenes should be giving your audience some idea of what it is they're about to see. What are you promising? In the body of it, you'll be delivering, hopefully, what you've promised. And then at the end, you'll wrap things up nicely so everybody feels satisfied that you did deliver on what you promised and they feel good about your film. Gain and keep attention. Something that at the beginning either grabs their attention forcefully or at least makes them think, hey, this could be interesting. And then keep the attention through the film. That means probably keep it relatively short. The one way that's guaranteed to lose attention is if they get bored. Now, ideally, you've already planned your story before you start shooting. Actually, once you've planned it and you've got an idea of what it is you want to do, the rest of it comes quite easily. You take the shots that support the story, and then you edit those to put them together and tell the story. Quite often I find that I don't know what the story is, but as I'm going along, all of a sudden I start to get an idea. So I have to throw away the first bits, and suddenly I know what it is I'm going to do, and then it builds after that. And actually the story can maybe expand, and then you think of some more things. But at least you have a plan. In the non-ideal scenario, you take lots of shots, probably on holiday, and I have to say I had 30 years of doing this. You take millions of shots, you've got about an hour of video when you get home, and you think, how the heck do I make this into a story? Because one thing is for sure, the fact that they're all of Skegness does not make it a story. That might be a common theme, but it's not a story. Editing is the process of turning your raw material into the story. The first thing, of course, is to cut out all the bad bits. And I'm very serious about this. A bit that's out of focus is the bit the audience will remember. That becomes the benchmark by which they judge your whole film. Oh, he was the fellow who had bits out of focus. So for God's sake, if there's bad bits, cut them out. Even if they're sort of critical of the story, I would still say, well, do your best to cut them out and try to find some other way to tell the story without that critical shot. It is so terrible to have bad bits in that you're ashamed of. And then select the shots that you're going to use to tell your story. It might be that your very best shot has to be left out. It was a good shot, but it didn't help to tell the story, or else you're going to have to move the story around a little bit to find a way to get a few seconds of this shot in there. But don't put in something that's totally irrelevant. And in editing, obviously, we put the shots into an order that tells the story, and we get the length about right. We can talk about length a bit more when we get onto the video bit, but you should have some sort of overall idea of how long you want the film to be. Then finally you add your commentary, your music, your titles, etc., etc. So those are the basic things that you're doing. Very often editing is a sort of mechanical exercise, particularly if you knew what you wanted to do, you've taken the shots that you need, and all you've got to do is stick it together and it all comes together nice and easily. Sometimes you have to start becoming a bit creative when the very shot that was critical is out of focus and you have to find some way around that. At other times, all of a sudden the film might suddenly start to take on a little bit of a life of its own, and you get inspired and you think, oh yes, I'd like to do this. And probably at that stage you wish you'd taken a few more shots that you didn't, but you can become a little bit more than just doing basic editing. However, whatever you do, it's always unobtrusive. You can have a very well edited film, but please do not expect people are going to come and say, you did a good job editing that. They won't do it, because they won't even notice you did a good job. They'll notice if you did a bad job, but they won't notice a good job. Keep in mind the overall effect you want to produce. You are creating a film. It's not how you do this bit and that bit and that bit. It's what is my overall film. It's like being a conductor in a piece of music. You're trying to think of the whole piece of music, trying to think of the whole orchestra. You're not hooked on some little part of it or some particular part of the wind instruments or something like that. Decide on the pace of the film. If it's going to be slow and languid, well, you can linger on the shots and you may not have very more. If it's rapid or some parts of it require rapid action, you want short shots to get it moving forward. Or you might want to vary the pace through the film just to keep the interest up. If you know what effect you're trying to achieve overall, then you will add the material that enhances that effect. Particularly, of course, I have in mind the right music, but also your commentary.